You're looking at the leg of a pony, and you can see from the scale it was quite a small animal, and it's been prepared in such a way that obviously the skeleton is still there. You should recognize all these pieces from previous segments of the video. But what is also on this are the tendons. So all of these are tendons. The muscles, for the most part, are missing, though we did talk about the muscles and show you them earlier. But what I want to focus on now is the tendons, because these are the springs that store and save energy when the animal is moving. And they look kind of loose and floppy at the moment, but as we focus on each joint, I'm going to show you exactly how each tendon is loaded and unloaded, releasing the energy through the different stages of the stance. Our first spring is this one right here. This is the biceps muscle. If you do your He-Man pose, can we get that in? Sorry. If you do your He-Man pose, your biceps muscle is the one that flexes on top of your arm. Same muscle in the horse. Notice it starts on the scapula, and it crosses the shoulder, and it goes down to the radius or the forearm, right here. And that's exactly what your own biceps does. But the horse biceps is different in that even though it's muscle, and you can see that the tissue here is quite brown, but running right through the middle of the muscle is a white springy tendon of the biceps. Our biceps does not have that. And what that does is two things. As the leg is coming backwards when it's in motion, and this joint, upper scapular joint, collapses, as soon as the leg comes off the ground, that biceps is going to, the spring is going to rebound and bring the joint forward again. So the muscle doesn't have to contract to bring that joint forwards. Just the spring tendon buried in the muscle brings that joint forwards. Similar action at the elbow joint. As the elbow comes off the ground, it straightens out. The stretch is in this. And so as the foot comes off the ground, the biceps automatically rebounds to bring it forwards. So this joint straightens out, this joint bends to help bring the foot forward from just leaving the ground to moving forward. The muscles don't have to drive that collapse of the limb, basically. If we now move down a couple of joints to the elbow and to the wrist or carpus, here's our biceps tendon again. But notice it's attached to another tendon. And this again is a muscle where all the muscle tissue's been taken off and we're just left with tendon. And this is called, for those who want to know, the extensor carpi radialis. And its main job is to straighten out the carpal joint and hold the carpal joint straight. But because it's connected to the tendon of the biceps, right here, by this lovely piece of tissue, you can see my little finger prodding the piece of tissue, there's a continuous tendon from the shoulder all the way down to the knee. This lovely little piece of tissue here connecting the two, we don't have that. And in horses it's called the lacertus fibrosus, which you don't have to remember, but it translates to stringy lizard. So here's the horse's stringy lizard buried in this tendon. But it means this, you've got a continuous rubber band from shoulder down to knee joint. So when the foot is off the ground and coming forward, tension in that helps straighten out the knee joint. So as the leg is coming forward to be planted on the ground, this knee joint straightens out because of tension in the biceps and tension in the extensor carpi radialis. Again, that saves the muscles having to work quite so hard to straighten it out. And it's assisted by another tendon going right through a muscle here. And you can see it running down the arm bone here and going across the knee joint. This one goes all the way to the toes. So I'm just going to point it out here, but we'll come back to it when we do the toes. Because it has the same straightening out effect on the toes, but you can see it comes all the way up here. And these are muscles that in us are used to straighten out our fingers. So it's doing the same thing, but it's not active muscular activity, it's purely passive, elastic, rubbery stretch in these tendons that's helping straighten out the joints. Here's the carpus or knee joint, here's the fetlock, and then the bones and joints of the pastern and hoof. Let's pick up this tendon where we left it, coming down towards the carpus. This is actually a pair of tendons, only one's preserved, but these are the digital extensors. Their function primarily in us is to extend or raise the digits. What they do in the horse is something like that, but as the leg is coming back, the foot comes off the ground like this, and that collapsing of the knee joint and the fetlock joint this direction stretches out this big long tendon, which comes all the way down to the coffin bone. So as soon as the leg's off the ground, the tension in that tendon is going to start bringing the leg forward again. So once again, the tendons are helping the motion of the leg, in this case, the straightening out of the toe to help position the toe ready for the next landing. And the muscles that are attached to the tendons help do the final fine tuning, but the tendons themselves do much of the uncoiling of the joints. Now we come to the big ones, the most important ones in terms of injury, and those are the flexor tendons. The flexor tendons in us are doing that. They're curling the fingers. So they're very important in grasping and writing and all the things we do with our fingers. In the horse, they've lost all those functions, and these tendons are now resisting that motion. So as the weight is put on the leg and the fetlock extends, it's these tendons that are resisting it. And should know the names, I hope you know the names: superficial and deep digital flexor tendons and suspensory ligament. And I'll point them all out individually in a minute. But those are the big three. They start off life as muscles up here, perfectly good muscles, and again they're the ones that help curl the fingers up. But as they get to just above or close to the knee, we've taken out all the muscles and we've just left the stumps of the tendon, and you can see this stump of the superficial digital flexor is attached to the back of the bone, back of the radius. So there's a continuous tendon from the back of the radius all the way down to the pastern. And here's the superficial digital flexor coming through. And if you may be able to see, if I pull it here, you ought to be able to see motion there. Or do it the other way up. If I pull it at the top, you can see motion down here. So these are connected. Tendons all the way through, bone to bone. The deep digital flexor, again, the muscle is up here. It attaches to the back of the knee joint and cannon bone by a ligament you all have heard of, the inferior check ligament, or the main check ligament. There it is right there. And again, this is another rubber band connecting the tendon to the bone, and then the tendon goes all the way to attach to the coffin bone. So what these are doing in the horse is, as the animal lands, weight goes on the leg, the fetlock bends. And as the fetlock bends, it pulls on the two digital flexor tendons and the suspensory, which we'll come to in a minute, but it stretches them out like rubber bands storing energy. The leg comes through, and as the foot's coming off the ground, that energy is released, and it flicks the toe back, and that helps catapult the animal upwards and forwards. So these springs are storing and releasing energy that makes the motion much more efficient. The horse has taken the muscle that we use to splay a pair or bring a pair of our fingers back together and made it into the suspensory ligament. So the suspensory ligament is sometimes called the interosseous muscle, and here it is right here, right on the back of the bone, back of the cannon bone, between the splint bones. It runs from the carpus, comes down, attaches to the two sesamoid bones, one on each side,